I'm not out there because I have any interest trying to run to build a party and seeking for power. I'm not after power. If you don't mind my saying, I have enough power. The kingdom that I belong to gives me enough power, so that power is not what I'm after. We are after purpose.
Another general election is upon us right here in Jamaica. It's 2025, and we are in high gear for the next government election. There are some things that we need to talk about. Welcome back to the Unusual Grace channel. It is always a pleasure to see you. I know that politics is a heated topic or hot topic, so to speak, and it can provoke some heated discussions and conversations. In this conversation, I want to have a particular focus, and as we go on, you will see, but just by way of introduction, alongside the Jamaica Labour Party and the People's National Party, we are getting some visibility this time around from the United Independence Congress, as well as the Jamaica Progressive Party. Additionally, we have quite a few independent candidates this time around. My friends, this is a good look for democracy. It's a good look for Jamaica, because what we have is a situation where there are some Jamaicans who love their country, like most of us do, love our country. But then for these people, they are so convicted and so convinced that they can make a positive difference should they get into parliament. And therefore, they have organized themselves in such a way that they're putting themselves out there as independent candidates or as part of the third registered political party or the fourth registered political party, that's UIC, United Independence Congress, and JPP, Jamaica Progressive Party. And they are contesting the September 3, 2025 general elections right here in Jamaica. I want to say it's commendable, it's a good look, and I want to wish them all the best. You've probably seen or heard by now that well-known clergyman Reverend Al Miller has launched his own political party. I can call it that for now. Let's call it that for now. But it's really a movement, the Jamaica First Movement. And his focus is really a government of national unity. And we'll get into why the party and what has been going on and all of that. But I want to share this with you.
Prominent clergyman Merrick Al Miller says it's time for an alternative to the established political forces, Jamaica Labour Party and the People's National Party. And that's why he's fronting the Jamaica First Movement, which he says can transform the direction that the country is headed in only one term. He says, yes, there isn't a better time than now to find that alternative, to set it on its course for betterment, and that he's inviting able-minded and able-bodied people who want to see Jamaica achieve better to join the Jamaica First Movement.
Reverend Al Miller's aim is to unite Jamaicans, make Jamaica win, put Jamaica first, reset the culture, bring about transformation, set a proper foundation, so that Jamaica can become a first world country, and not just first world, but first class. Listen to Reverend Al Miller.
Blessings to you, the incredible millennials and youth of Jamaica. Come on now, I need your ears for a couple of minutes. I'm talking to the dreamers and thinkers, the ones who feel the weight of our country's potential and wonder, when will things really change? I want to invite you into something bigger, a real hope and an opportunity to build the new Jamaica that needs your input. I'm Pastor Al Miller, I've spent over 50 years serving Jamaica and its people. I've seen a lot, the good, the bad, and the in-between. Since our independence, we have done everything.
So, Reverend Al Miller tried to get our two main political parties to join together and put Jamaica first. And when those efforts fail, he has been trying that for a while. That the just, for them to come together and as it relates to Jamaica, use the best minds, regardless of what party you're affiliated with, the most qualified person and so on, to serve the nation. And so he went ahead and started his own thing. What he says so far sounds good. And I'll share some more of what he said, but here he's making an appeal to our young people.
I'm Al Miller, a servant of God and the people, serving our nation for over 50 years. A team of leaders and I have come together under the Build Jamaica Foundation to creatively find a path to build the dream of a new Jamaica. We will lay its foundation in one 5-year term in a united alliance of the best hearts and minds drawn from across the political spectrum, private sector, church, and civil society. We are held together by a common bond to put Jamaica first.
So the first question or set of questions that this raises for me is why now? Why at this time and why so close to the election at this 9th hour? And I take an interest in these independent parties because I know that Reverend Al Miller is a clergyman. He's a Christian. And when Christians are out there, we want to ensure that we keep the balance in what's being put out there in the name of Christianity or the church. Not to say that his movement is being promoted in the name of, but I know that there are some questions, and I want you to come along with me and let us think and reason together as we process all of this. And at the end of this video, don't go away too soon because I want to remind Christians what our responsibility is at the end. And I also have some advice for these for these independent parties or third and fourth party. I think I have some pretty good advice there. So I want you to stick around for that.
Guided by the Christian values of justice, truth, and righteousness, laid down by our founding fathers in the motto, anthem, and pledge. This is a time for bold, radical leadership to do what is necessary to bring transformation in the shortest time.
I just want to say here, and pardon me for interrupting, to bring transformation in the shortest possible time, it sounds very rushed. And again, I wonder about the wisdom in this.
Lay a lasting foundation and new paradigms to defeat corruption, division, injustice, and other ingrained weaknesses that have hampered our political and government systems over the past 40 years. We can only best build a strong nation on the principle of unity, love, peace, and good governance. Sometimes we feel overwhelmed and think that things are impossible to change. As Elijah, who thought he was alone. But the Lord said to him, I have 7,000 who have not yet bowed their knee to Baal.
And I want to interrupt here again because there is this assumption that the people who are undecided voters in our electorate, that they're prepared to vote for anybody and anything. And I believe that many Jamaicans, like the Reverend Al Miller, have a fundamental issue with how things are, the status quo and so on. Some people will vote regardless. And then there are others who are contemplating. And then there are many people who are really looking for a viable alternative, right? A viable alternative. So while there may be people who are like-minded, because these are excellent values upon which a country should be built, and, that should be governed by. These values are very important and they are proven to be beneficial to families. And families, when families are doing well, the country does well. But the time is very short. And there is this underlying assumption that people are just going to get up and vote for anybody and anything other than the two main parties. One of the things I listened to Don Anderson, who is an award-winning pollster, in an interview, and he explained the latest polls that he did in this election season, and he also spoke about some trends he would have noticed from the 80s. One of the things that stood out to me that I found quite insightful, and I hope I remember, I'll put the link to that interview in the description here, is that he spoke about the undecided group of voters, so to speak. They are the undecided group. He says, regardless of the campaigning and the manifesto releasing and so on, this group is pretty strong. And when he does his polls, the polls reveal the mind of the people at the point of when the poll is done, and that the trend is that these undecided people remain undecided. It's very rare that they will get up and vote. They just don't. So voter apathy is a real thing. And it is highly unlikely that at this ninth hour, people who are not planning, because that's the strategy based on what I heard in the interviews from, the goodly reverend, is that that high percentage of people who did not vote, who do not usually vote, they are showing by virtue of their lack of interest in the process that they are not pleased with either of the two main political parties. And therefore, this being an alternative now, putting Jamaica first, that they are just going to get up and go and vote. So given that the voter turnout percentage, the rate is very low, it's 37%, I think the last time, 37.2%, something like that, then you're looking at 60 something percent, which is a large percentage of the electorate, right? So if they were all to come out and vote, then clearly there would be a clear majority there for this particular party that Reverend Al Miller is now promoting. But this kind of reasoning is devoid of other factors that are as strong, that are very strong. Some people just don't want to vote. But what Don Anderson said about how people think based on the trend he noticed, that's one of the reasons why, I think that it's not going to work at this time. But I do have some recommendations. But let's continue. Let's finish this out.
If your heart is for the new Jamaica as a priority, then come stand with us. Together, we shall build it. We are not bothered by the time factor of the possible election goal. We know who has the final say. Our job is to be ready for whatever.
I can agree with those last two statements. We know who has the final say. And believe it or not, UG family, God already knows who has won or who will win the September 3 general elections, right? And he says, we are not bothered by the time factor. Well, I can tell you, it will take a miracle for a third party to just sweep an election and win. We're not talking here, I am not hearing from the Reverend Al Miller getting into Parliament with a 1 seat or a 2 seats, No. He's thinking about forming the next government. And I found that to be quite interesting for a number of reasons. One, when the political party was announced on the news, then it became registered as a movement. And then I saw an article in one of our newspapers where the Reverend Al Miller was calling for, people from the Jamaican populace who are interested in putting Jamaica first and serving their nation. And what that communicated to me was that, he didn't have people ready to contest the election that he so wants to do. And commendations to him and whatever team he may be working with, in that there is a wonderful website that is up, clear vision, mission, governmental structure, and there's a constitution there, well organized, and somewhere where you can join the movement and all of that. I went on the website and it's looking really good. It's looking really good. They have a YouTube channel with, small number of subscribers, but it's steadily growing. And that's where I would have gotten the Jamaica First YouTube channel. I would have gotten some of these videos that I am sharing with you today. And so all of that, that's good, good, very organized and the use of the social media and so on. But if you are going to sweep an election, you need campaign funds, you need to get into mainstream media. I try to watch the news nightly and I have not seen any ads from, Almila on the news, not on the news, during prime time rather, and so on. So the odds are looking like it's against, and then, he would have utilized the already registered JPP, and we'll come to them in a few minutes. But, so the announcement came prematurely, in my opinion, because there were so many things still to be organized. And you're talking about contesting an election in less than a month and, or just about a month, and you don't even have people. Jamaicans are to vote that way. All right. So Reverend Miller did an interview with a journalist called Tavares, something like that. So I want to share bits and pieces of that interview because I found it very insightful, and I will give some commentary somewhere in between. And then after that, we will get to the recommendations.
Reverend Miller, my first question to you, sir. Why you decided to join form a political party, sir?
Sometimes I ask myself the same question, but with all seriousness, this has come, it was out of the beginning of the year, at the turn of the year, I made a call to the nation by addressing the nation.
And I smiled when I heard him say that he made a call to the nation by addressing the nation. Reverend Miller is one of our more well-known clergymen in this country. And I think he has the platform and would have some amount of authority to be able to do that. I wasn't aware of the call though until I saw on the news, the Jamaica First Movement. By the way, we're going to speed up the audio, the video clip, just in the interest of time. So if you hear the talking sounding a little faster than usual, it's because it has been sped up.
On Christmas Day and again on New Year's Day. Because, and before I finish that, to say the background of that, Jeffrey, is for years our nation has been going through difficult, last 40 years. We have been up and down like a yo-yo in many respects, and yet we have so much ability. We have accomplished so much in the world. We know what the capacity, the ability that the nation has, but we have never been able to maximize that because of the divisions that crept in over 40 years ago, and it has only gotten worse. So what I did in this beginning of the year was to make a call and say, look, it's time we focus on not just talking about building the new Jamaica, but let us really take the kind of necessary steps to build that new Jamaica that we've been talking about for decades. And in order to do that, critical pillar is to unite, because we are so divided as a nation from many different ways, but particularly the political divide has kind of separated us, and so it has only added to the other kinds of stuff. So I made a call to the nation saying, look, it's now time for us as a nation to unite. And so I made a call for a government of national unity for one political term, one 5-year term, so that we would seek to find and bring together the best hearts and minds in the country and to work together for one term to rebuild and reshape this nation in the way we all desire. And the caveat on it was, we're saying in order to do that, knowing the intensity of the opposing factions, we said, look, we would need to look at pulling together a team of what we call elders of the nation, or I use a sporting analogy, Jeffrey, of coaches. That Jamaica has not been winning because the two main political parties are divided, but they are operating like club teams. so that they are trying to win, but with all their best efforts, at the end of the day, they may score some goals, but they may even win a match, but Jamaica don't win. And what we need now is to make Jamaica win. And to make Jamaica win, we need a united team of the best, because good players are on either side, but Jamaica is not winning.
I wonder if you caught where he said that it's just 1 5-year term that they would go for. And that for me raises the question, with Jamaica's problems that we have. We live in Jamaica. It's not all bad, but there are some challenges that we would like to be fixed. Can we really do that in just 5 years? Let's say they were given the opportunity to lay this wonderful foundation and, in 5 years and so on. Why leave it? And leave it to whom? I mean, if you're building a house, I'm just thinking about that process, constructing your home, building. When you lay the foundation, you don't want to stop there. You want to continue on the foundation and, bring it to completion, or at least bring it to an exceptionally advanced stage where you can now bring in some other workers to put on the finishing touches and do some other things. And as you are building, you're pulling on different, specialists, different workers as you go along. I'm not a construction expert, but just from my own observation and my limited knowledge. So I find that to be concerning. While I appreciate the vision and I like the fact that these are biblical values and so on, it really concerns me, and I'm challenged by the idea that 1 5-year term would be enough to set this country on the right path. And let's say that we were able to do that, putting it on the right path and then leaving it to whom, to what, to go back to where they were. I mean, when you talk about transformation, with people, transformation must come from within. Transformation is not conforming, it's different. So you're not just doing some things, that transformation is from within. What are some of the the programs and activities? What will we do to bring about that transformation from within? Because when we talk about that, just think about changing the mindset of the people. I mean, having a plan on paper is one, but we know that our people think a particular way, especially when it comes on to politics. So, how will we deal with that mindset within that time frame? We need buy-in from the nation. We need buy-in. So how will we pursue a vision without that kind of buy-in from the nation? Because if you have, let's say you get buy-in from some young people, the millennials and so on, if you have a significant portion of the population who are die-hearted, are extremely dedicated to the two main parties, I mean, how will we get the transformation and get buy-in from them? So those are just some things I think about.
How do you plan to fund this party? Or this movement?
Why man love ask difficult questions, Sir Jeffrey?
That's what I do. I'm a journalist, and that's what I do, sir.
Again, I'm going to speed it up so that, in the interest of time, so you will hear the response sounding faster than usual. The video has been sped up.
Okay, sir. Bless you. Touch him, Jesus. Yes. No. But seriously, it is like with anything we do, and for us as men of God, we make a step of faith. But we're really saying that, look, the people and donors, just as all political parties out there raise funds, it is by getting those who are committed to the vision to commit to the vision. And that is similarly what we have done. We had a little bit of seed capital that we got, but to really make it happen does need the engagement of those who will give to it. And because we feel it's a public issue, and many of the many of the major organizations may not as easily support something like this, simply because, as you know, party funding comes with expectations from those who fund it. And that is partly why we have the corruption and all this stuff we have going on in how we have carried on for the last 40 years. So
Yes.
what we fully intend to do in these couple of days, now that we are so close to an election, we are really just making an appeal to all of the citizens of the country. We say, look, if a few of us, 200,000, 100,000 of us, a few of us give a small amount of money, you can have enough. But it's our country, so we must be prepared.
Now, what am I hearing? I'm hearing a plan for the finances that's not solidified, not concrete, and just dependent on the mercies of people or the kindness of people, whether they want to give or not. And I did not include this, but somewhere in the interview, the journalist, Jeffrey Tavares, he said that for the United Independence Congress, UIC, that they were people from the diaspora, Jamaicans from the diaspora and so on, had donated some sums of money to them. And when they were asked to reveal, how the money was spent and so on, they were not able to show that information, or maybe they refused to show the information. But I think the point that Tavares was making, Mr. Tavares, is that because he said to Reverend Al Miller, you're a clergyman, and this is what happened, and so on. So I think the point he was making is that, why would people just donate money like that and they're not sure if it will be used as it will be used? Can you be trusted? Now, I think that the any well-thinking person will not just assume trust because I'm a Christian, or, because he's a clergyman and so on. I think that when it comes to leadership, trust must be earned. So you have to be around in the space, in the position, and you would have needed some time to demonstrate that you can be trusted. But to just come at the ninth hour and to ask for donations and so on, and I think he said he would need like 200 to 300,000 US, somewhere there, to put on a good campaign and so on. So let's hear the rest of this.
So it is us who have to ourselves fund it with what we have and invite others who are committed to Jamaica to contribute to it. So we're calling on all your viewers, our Jamaicans overseas, diaspora at home. Come on, if you believe that it's time for change and we want to see a new Jamaica, put your money where your mouth is and let's work together and do it, because we have created a framework. So therefore, just let's support it and it can happen.
Are you looking at Mr. Tavares's facial expression? Oh boy, I find the look on his face is like, it's one of just total awe and disbelief, But it doesn't work like that. I don't think it works like that. No, Rev. I don't think it works like that. But so he's calling on all Jamaicans to kind of put some money together and so on. There is no plan in place for this. But then something happened though, and we want to talk about that.
When you all get the donation now,
Yes.
what is your plan for this 2025 election,
Yes.
September 3rd?
Yes. At this point, the only thing that we need a little money for, because the movement, the Jamaica First Movement, what we did, because we are founded on the principle of unity and wanting to unite the nation for the best hearts and minds, when we established an alliance with the Jamaica Progressive Party that came and we talked, and they says, look, they are committed to the principles that we are committed to, and we said then clearly we can work together. And so out of that, we've agreed, rather than the JFM set up its own political machinery. We says, come on, you have been there, you have a political machinery set. If you are prepared to make that political machinery available, then we want to work with it and strengthen it, because it's about unity. So this is what we have done. So what it means now, we don't need no holy colossal money, because what we need to do now is primarily to be able to get the message out. by giving that you saying to Jamaicans, here is an alternative that can work. We have a team that will serve you on the constituency level, and the principles of the government of national unity will pull together the team that can effectively run the government with the best hearts and minds. So all we're talking about funding for now is really for a media type campaign to just get the messaging out.
And there you have it. JFM joined with JPP. So who is JPP? These men of God, most of them, I believe that it's a party that targets Christians to be a part of their structure, right? So you can say it's a faith-based movement, a faith-based party. And I have been following up the JPP since 2020 when they came out and they were called the God Squad. I don't know if they call themselves that or it was just the media who had given them that name. But they came out in 2020 and I was super excited that we had a party of Christians who were coming together and, I was just watching to see them. And then they pulled out of the election and basically disappeared. But one of the things they said was that they wanted to strengthen their internal mechanisms and so on. And I won't get into some of the things that came up because I have all the articles lined up and that kind of thing. But so let's focus on the present, 2025. 2025, JPP has come out strong, 40 plus, candidates that are registered, they're contesting the election and that kind of thing. But the challenge I'm having, because I remember between 2020 and the present, I went on Facebook. I was looking for them. I was wondering, where are they? What are they saying? They were just not, around, at least not visibly enough for me to find them. But I'm happy that they came back and they seem to be stronger than they were then. They have their people and so on. So, it's a good look. It's a good look for JPP in terms of what they're presented with. But here's my challenge, similar to Reverend Al Miller's movement. So now they are joined in what he calls a kind of marriage. And I'll say a little bit about that shortly. So they have joined this coalition, and it came out in the Gleaner, no, not the Gleaner, the Observer, as a historic move. This is historic, and together they're going to work, and this is what God is doing, and all of that, all of that. Okay. But this ninth hour, we didn't hear about JPP until the election date was announced. Where were they? But clearly they were preparing themselves because they came out strong. But then we have not seen you and we don't know. So while there may be some people who are candidates within the party that we know and love and so on, we still need time. We need some time. I listened in on one of the meetings, town hall meetings, and I think town hall meetings are great. It's a good look for democracy. The two main parties have eliminated the town hall because they don't want to answer to anybody. But town hall is a good thing. Town hall meetings give an opportunity for the voice of the people to be heard in a more direct way. And, you can incorporate, their views, their concerns, and so on in decision making and that kind of thing. And I think that there were some good ideas there and so on. But the time, we need more time. What we need the time for, I'm going to talk about that shortly. But I want to play this final clip here about this marriage between JPP and JFM.
Why you decide to join forces with the Jamaica Progressive Party?
As I indicated a little earlier, is that it would only be two options for us. We could either ourselves create the political machinery, which I preferred not to have had to do because the whole energy behind what we are saying is unity. Mm-hmm. And here was a political party who had invited the existing main parties. They were not prepared to unite. So because we had asked all the parties, and the JPP said, look, their values and what we were saying aligned. And we said, wonderful, then let's walk together. And they were gracious to come to the table. We sat, we talked, and we see where we could find the alignment, and it fitted. And so we said, come on then, let us not recreate the wheel. They have a good basic machinery, only need strengthening. Let us then work with them, and they become the electoral machinery that we would ride in. So it is the Jamaica First Movement in alliance with the JPP, and so the voting side, the electoral side, they carry that. So it's a wonderful marriage, so to speak, so that, especially when we're talking about a short time, then it's God. We believe it is God that has allowed them to be willing to walk together with us.
All right, so marriage, they believe it is God, and so on. And this is one of the concerns that I have with these kinds of statements that are often made when Christian people put themselves in leadership on a public platform and so on. So good thing they're they're into unity and so on. And at the moment, at that time, when they came together, they said that the values aligned and so on. But let me show you what happened 11 days after that marriage. Now take a look at this. Jamaica Observer. This is August 24, which was Sunday. JFM and JPP announce mutual dissolution of alliance. And there you have the picture there with all of them who have become a part of who are shaking hands and so on. And it says, citing substantive differences, the Jamaica First Movement and the Jamaica Progressive Party have announced the mutual dissolution of their recent political alliance. The split comes just over a week before the general elections are scheduled to be contested, emphasizing that the decision follows a series of respectful and candid discussions between both parties. The two said in a joint statement, while we entered this partnership with shared hopes for national transformation, we have come to recognize that our foundational principles, particularly regarding the structure and vision for a government of national unity, were not as fully aligned as initially understood and have since revealed substantive differences that were not apparent at the outset. Come on now. Come on. That's disappointing. That's disappointing. But my friends, I I just wish them all the best. I do not think that they stand a chance to win the election, but I do want to encourage independent parties and third parties and fourth parties because that's what democracy is about. And I want to say to us as Christians, we have a responsibility in the midst of all of this. And let me say what it is up front, and then I make some recommendations. Now listen to Romans chapter 13. Let everyone be subject to the governing authorities, for there is no authority except that which God has established. The authorities that exist have been established by God. Consequently, whoever rebels against the authority is rebelling against what God has instituted, and those who do so will bring judgment on themselves. For rulers hold no terror for those who do right, but for those who do wrong. Do you want to be free from fear of the one in authority? Then do what is right and you will be commended. For the one in authority is God's servant for your good. But if you do wrong, be afraid, for rulers do not bear the sword for no reason. They are God's servants, agents of wrath, to bring punishment on the wrongdoer. Therefore, it is necessary to submit to the authorities not only because of possible punishment, but also as a matter of conscience. This is also why you pay taxes, for the authorities are God's servants who give their full time to governing. Give to everyone what you owe them. If you owe taxes, pay taxes. If revenue, then revenue. If respect, then respect. If honor, then honor. Now, we've established, God already knows who will be in the government, who will be in parliament, who will win the general election on September 3. That will not take God by surprise. But Christians need to remember that whoever holds that office, that office, whoever is in there needs to be respected as that which God has instituted, and we have a civic duty to live righteously, to be cooperative, and to be part of whatever will advance the well-being of the society, and so on. But in addition to that, I want to remind us of this scripture. 1 Timothy chapter 2. Verse 1 says, I urge then, first of all, that petitions, prayers, intercession, and thanksgiving be made for all people, for kings and all those in authority, that we may live peaceful and quiet lives in all godliness and holiness. For kings and all those in authority. That's speaking to leadership there. This is good and pleases God our Savior, who wants all people to be saved and to come to a knowledge of the truth. For there is one God and one mediator between God and mankind, the man Christ Jesus, who gave himself as a ransom for all people. This has now been witnessed to at the proper time, and for this purpose I was appointed a herald and an apostle. I am telling the truth, I am not lying, and a true and faithful teacher of the Gentiles. So that's, the focus here is on verse 1 and 2. First of all, petitions, prayers, intercession, and thanksgiving be made for all people, for kings and all those in authority, that we may live peaceful and quiet lives in all godliness and holiness. So, my friends, we must pray for those in authority, pray for the government, and I want to add to that to pray as well for the upcoming elections, just to pray for peace to reign, pray for the election workers, pray for those who will go out and vote, and so on. The conversation, I am staying away from talking about whether biblically Christians should vote. I am sure you have an opinion on that, and that your pastors probably would have engaged you in conversations on that. That's not why I'm here at this time. But I do have a position on that, a personal position on that. But the only thing I will say is who you choose to vote for, if you are going to vote, that's your choice and your business. And if you choose not to vote, maybe you are among those who are apathetic in this process. That's between you and the Lord. My prayer for you as a Christian is that you will seek to be led by the Spirit and to act in accordance with the mandate given to us in Scripture as it relates to engaging the political process, meaning what our role is concerning the government, as Christians living in the society. Now, what is my recommendation? Number one, this is my recommendation to JFM, JPP, whether maybe you will not join together again. I wonder what will become of the JFM right now, given that the marriage has dissolved. But I want to encourage the efforts and to say, stay on the scene. Stay on the scene. Should you lose the general election that's coming up September 3, and that's very likely if you ask me, I want to encourage you to stay on the scene. Let us see you. Let us hear you on the issues as they arise. Stay on the scene and let's see and hear you. Don't disappear between elections. Let's just stay active. Take on a project. Do something within the communities that you represent. Even if it is something very small, that is fine. You do not have to go extravagant, because what you will do at that time, over the next 5 years, you are building. So when you are ready to campaign, you can actually say, this is what we have been doing, and we have this vision, because you have some good plans now, some good ideas. I've seen some good ones and so on, but I've listened to some of the candidates, and what they have to say is so simple and unconvincing because they lack experience. Some of the ones I've heard, a few of them that I've listened to on social media, you lack experience. people are not going to come out and just vote for you because of that. Of course, we know that God can do anything. So we're not ruling out a miracle. But apart from a miracle, you're not going to win this election at all. I just want to be upfront with you and honest. Yeah. So the second thing I have here is that you should take on small projects, and I mentioned that earlier. But let us see your commitment and your patience. I find that a lot of third parties and independent candidates in Jamaica, they just come up when an election it has been called, has been announced. We don't hear them in between elections at all. So let's see your commitment and let's see your patience. Thirdly, I want to say it takes time to build trust and confidence. It does. People are not just going to trust you and have confidence in you because you say that you're a Christian. It takes time to build trust and confidence. Therefore, stick around and let us and build that trust. Build that trust, build that confidence. So the aim, and I'm speaking to, JPP in particular, but maybe any other party other than the two main ones, the aim is to increase your influence, right? That's the aim. And therefore, some third parties have in other countries and so on have built their influence and visibility over multiple election cycles. It's not going to be an overnight thing. If you are serious, you have to be able to, stay the course for a little longer than usual. Because remember, we're dealing with people who have a mindset, and we have two parties from the get-go that are now quite entrenched in our system. So you have to do that. I also have here, and I'm looking down because I'm reading from my notes. Now I want to talk about strengthening your organizational capacity. And what you can do to do that is to develop strong local structures. So what that means is you can seek to build constituency groups that remain active between elections, not just during campaigns. Secondly, you can look at improving financial management because, JPP in 2021, there was an article that, that criticized the fact that there were some unpaid staff and so on. So some people remember that. So you don't think that we don't know or don't remember. So you can look at ensuring transparency, accountability, and sustainable fundraising in between the elections. Train your leaders and candidates as well. So it is a good thing to provide ongoing leadership and governance training so that candidates can present themselves as credible alternatives. That's another thing. The average Jamaican might not vote for a young person who has no experience. Because you're just coming, it's not like you have entered an organization or a political party that has been around and there are people there to mentor you. Everybody in the JPP, my assumption based on what I have seen or who I have seen, they have experience, some of them in leadership in their churches and in their communities and so on, but not, governmental type leadership. So while some of those can be transferred, I think that there is credibility to the suggestion that those young ones who have no experience or very limited experience would benefit from such a training. Engage in grassroots mobilization as well. Stay connected with your communities. Host town halls, listen sessions, and service projects in constituencies. Focus on youth and first-time voters. They are often the ones who are disillusioned with the two-party dominance, and they may be more open to alternatives. So that's not a bad idea at all. And you can partner with civil society as well. Build credibility by aligning with some non-governmental organizations, with churches and community leaders as well. Another thing that could be done to look at a distinct policy identity. So your manifesto is 103 pages. It's really too long. The average Jamaican will just not see. That's like reading a little novel. It's just too much. So simplify the message and make sure that the voters know in one or two clear points what makes you different from the two main parties that we have. Just one or two points. You can look at championing some overlooked issues. So you don't have to parrot every issue that the other two are talking about. What are some of the issues that they're overlooking? And you can look at, for example, mental health, environmental protection, corruption reform, rural development. Those are some issues that just barely get touched. So you can look at becoming an expert on those issues. Do some reading, do some research, look at what the latest research, look at some models, and craft up something that you can really propose for Jamaica and show practical plans. Instead of just criticizing the major parties, offer realistic step-by-step solution. And this is just to simplify the process because I think that there is some element of this already. Another thing you can look at is to, and this is the final thing, play the long game. So think beyond one election. Smaller parties, because you are a small party and a new party, you often need you need multiple cycles of election in order to gain seats. And be realistic. What if you try to just get your foot in the door by winning one seat? What if you focus your efforts on 1 or 2 seats, for example, that you could win? Look at those battleground constituencies that are not necessarily strongholds for one of the two, and focus your efforts there. Because people will swing. They're swinging already. So maybe, so that's something you can look at, and recruit strong candidates early. Start identifying and grooming candidates now for the next local government and general election. So not this 2025 one, but subsequent. And stay united. That's important. It's a Christian community, right? So stay united as best as possible, because we know that sometimes challenges will arise. So, and I like the fact that the dissolution of the partnership between JFM and JPP, according to the report, it was respectful and they agreed upon it. So that's good, for what it's worth. But internal conflict or financial missteps will undermine credibility. So the leadership must prioritize unity and discipline. And here's another thing that I wanted to really just say. For example, this is one of the things, this is big for me when I thought about it. The two main parties, remember now. So for example, let's take the current government, the Jamaica Labour Party. There's a Minister of Education, Minister of, Health and Wellness, and you have, Justice and all of those ministries, right? And then in the People's National Party, there's an opposition spokesperson on each of those areas. For you, JPP, you could determine within your group who will be the spokesperson on health and wellness, who will be your spokesperson on education, who will be your spokesperson on gender issues, who will be yours, and let those people train themselves in that area. So when there's a national issue, maybe something has come up and the comments are going on, you are also bringing your unique perspective and views on those matters. So, you have a structure in terms of, your different departments or ministries and so on. So have your people being trained along those lines so that you can be ready when the election comes. And one misstep or loss is a great one. So please do not disappear after this. Stay present and let us see you. The key is not to retreat again, but to steadily gain trust, confidence, and stay present and active in national life so that we can see you again. All right, so I thank you for sticking with me in this conversation. I trust that it was educational for you, and stay safe. All the very best, and see you again. Always remember that through His word, God speaks.